Audiobook Club with Steve Phillips and Matthew Layton.
The star of this week's Audiobook Club is a particularly vicious green-eyed monster.
What is it like to be so impossibly perfect? To have every good thing in the world? And maybe it's the cocktails or my overactive writer's imagination, but I feel this hot coiling in my stomach. A bizarre urge to stick my fingers in her berry red painted mouth and rip her face apart, to neatly peel her skin off her body like an orange and zip it up over myself.
Audiobook Club with Steve Phillips and Matthew Layton.
Hello and welcome to Audiobook Club, the podcast that reviews and recommends audiobooks, funnily enough. On this week's show, an Audiobook Club first. Matt and I, hi Matt.
Hello.
We're going to review two different audio versions of one original text. The text under our audio microscope today is Yellowface by Chinese-born American hotshot young author R.F. Kuang.
Yes. How are you, Steve?
I'm very good, thank you. This book, This book.
Your enthusiasm for this book, and particularly the narrator of the official version of the book, I'm just so excited. I can't wait. Forgive me if I rush everything else, Steve, but I want to get to the bit that I haven't heard yet. I know you're enthusiastic about it, but I want to know why. So may I run in straight away and get on with it?
Yes, run in.
Okay, so what we're going to do is going to do Notes from the Margin, which is our feature where we talk about something that isn't the main book. Then we're going to talk about the author. Then we're going to talk about the text of the book. The author is Rebecca F. Kuang. The book is Yellowface. And then we're going to talk about two different versions of it. The first one is the audiobook, the official audiobook from HarperCollins, which is 8 hours and 38 minutes. The second version is the Book at Bedtime abridged version. That's the BBC Radio 4 in the UK plays, well, it abridges and plays out books of note late at night to send you to sleep. So without further ado, I hate it when people say that.
Yeah, do that. It's like saying I have to say. Can I just say? And then friend of the show, obviously. Friend of the show. I hate that one.
Much ado about nothing is the one that winds me up. So in the throes of your enthusiasm this week, I used to love audiobooks the way that Steve loves audiobooks. Why haven't I fallen in love with an audiobook recently? And then, while scrolling around late at night looking for something to listen to, I was in the Audible Originals section. So if you subscribe to the Audible app and get your monthly credit, you also get access to their library of originals and exclusives. And to be honest, it's a little bit patchy. But this week I stumbled across something called The Safe Man, which is a book by Michael Connelly, who you will know for writing Bosch. And it's written by Michael Connelly, and it's narrated by Jack Quaid and Titus Welliver, who, if you know anything about the Bosch TV series and the stories, that an incredible character actor, just so good at his job, and has managed to make that show last for 8 seasons. But interestingly, this book seems to be produced by something called Hieronymus Productions, which is obviously connected to Bosch. I don't know if it's Michael Connelly or if it's Titus Welliver. I should imagine it's the two of them working together. They're quite well entwined. But I have to say that I haven't heard audio production of this quality in an audiobook probably since The Sandman.
Wow.
That's saying a lot from us, isn't it? That's the highest possible.
It is. No, it is. Well, it's like the movie thing. We talk about the movie, don't we? The movie in your mind and the soundscapes that went to Sandman. I did listen to the first 5 seconds of The Safe Man when you sent me the link, but I was in a rush and had to go and do something else. But I was instantly like, right, I'm going to come straight back to that. It was just very, very atmospheric.
Well, fortunately, I've saved you the bother. And this is the bit where Jack Quaid, who I know from The Boys, where he plays a sort of an everyman young pup who turns into a hero. In this book, he's an everyman young man who turns into a hero. And this is him running into a house fire.
There you go. Now get back. Get back from the house. Okay. Now the boy. Now the boy, come on.
Come on, Trey. Come on. Come on.
There you go. What's your name?
Andre?
Okay, Andre, I want you to go out to the end of the driveway. The fire trucks are coming. You go out there and you wave them down. You bring them here, okay?
Okay.
You can go, but be careful. Don't go in the street, all right? Okay. Ma'am, your turn. Can you get up on the windowsill?
Now, Steve, I don't know about you, but to me, that's almost what you said. It's like I feel that I've left the television on.
You know what? That has echoes straight from Grace Archer dying in the fire in The Archers back in 1953.
They probably didn't have the American fire engine.
No.
And the suspenseful music, as they say.
But it captured the hearts of a nation, that disaster. It also spoiled the opening of ITV back in the day for those of you.
Come back.
Reel me back in. Reel me in.
We're trying to get to the good bit of this show. So just briefly, if you like that, The Safe Man, Michael Connolly, narrated by Jack Quaid, Titus Welliver, and a full cast. It's as a podcast. Weirdly, that's a podcast. We'll probably come back to this later, but that's available on Audible if you have a subscription in their originals section. So now to the main course. And as usual, we will start by talking about the author. By the way, I'm rushing this, Steve, because I just want to hear you talk. The author of our title, Yellowface, this week is R.F. Kuang, Rebecca F. Kuang. Born May 29th, 1996 in Guangzhou in China, moved to the United States at the age of 4. She is ridiculously accomplished. She has master's degrees from Oxford and Cambridge, is currently doing her PhD at Yale. She's a #1 New York Times bestseller. And yeah, this is her the 5th novel. The first 4 were fantasy novels. The title of this one, Yellowface, it's very clever, as well as the sort of obvious racist overtones. There's an element of pretending to be someone you're not. It won Amazon Book of the Year. It won Foyle's Fiction Book of the Year. And the basic story is journeywoman author June Hayward, her friend, who is a brilliant young author, dies in a strange pancake-related accident.
That's in the post. That's the way we're going to go, I think.
A globule of pancake gets lodged in her windpipe. And after failing to do the Heimlich maneuver on her, basically, June nicks the book, the finished manuscript, unread by anybody, and passes it off as her own. And much intelligent writing ensues, touching on themes like jealousy, and there are obviously a couple of things that you and I probably aren't qualified to talk about, Steve, which is the literary references, the Chinese cultural references, particularly to ghosts, and the political correctness minefield that is who is allowed to tell the story, as in, can a white person write a story about a black character? Can a straight actor play a gay character? So we're not going to go anywhere near those. They're all very good. You can read reviews of the books online to get the hang of all of those. The material's out there already. But the important bit is the audiobook. So firstly, we've got 2 versions of this, the BBC version and the HarperCollins version. The HarperCollins version is 8 hours and 38 minutes long. It's read by somebody called Helen Laser. Now, Steve, it's over to you.
Well, straight off the bat, I was coming into this. We just read The Hotel Avocado by Bob Mortimer, and that was fantastic. That was amazing, an amazing performance by all the cast in that, Bob Mortimer, Paul Whitehouse, etc. And you could not have more of a gear change, certainly with the story. And I went into this completely cold. I hadn't read any of Rebecca Kuang's body of work up until this point. And then straight off the bat, straight into the intrigue. I obviously understood read the synopsis of everything you just outlined, but I wasn't expecting to get into the action so quickly. a brief kind of setup of the character, the relationship, and then you were straight into the death of Athena Liu with the pancake-related incident and the stealing of the manuscript, and therein just it was then you were just hooked in from chapter 1. And I don't get hooked in very much at all. Indeed, it takes a lot to hook me into a good fiction book. But this one, I haven't read anything so good in years, probably.
But you were jumping up and down when I spoke to you, going, "Oh my goodness, this narrator, Helen Laser, she is so good."
Yeah.
How did she drag you in?
Well, she's the best example I've seen for a long time of a perfect match between the performance and the character. And you and I talk a lot about there's a difference between a narrator and a performer, and she is definitely a performer because she had to from how I was listening. Helen Laser had to achieve this character on many levels. This is someone who is the protagonist, and usually you're on the side of the protagonist, aren't you? They're usually the goodie.
Do you know what? I was really looking forward to asking you. So do you actually like the lead character in this book?
Yeah. I feel a bit dirty saying it, really. I mean, yeah, dude, I did. I was hooked in by the psychosis of the lead character, how the mind worked, the constant justification, the constant trying to lie convincingly. It was really interesting, which I don't know if that says something about me. Maybe it does. But yeah.
She lies to herself and others, doesn't she? As well as lying to others, she lies to herself. I think that's the best way to put it.
She justifies all the actions she does as being a good thing. Therefore, she's right. Therefore, she can do it. And it starts, there's obviously the main manuscript, but it just doesn't stop. It becomes like a drug. I've had the first book. It was a major runaway success, albeit with a massive social media storm. What do I do next? How do I top it? How do I carry on from there? And of course, she's reached the peak so soon. But her inspiration is dead. The person who wrote it is dead. And so where do you go from there? And it's, rifling through and looking for other tidbits that you can expand on and so on. And it's a ever decreasing circle. And what really impressed me was Helen Laser takes the voice of June Hayward, and she's got to convey the justification, that convincing herself as well as convincing others. So she goes through the panic of explaining to others the justification to herself, the panic as she gets found out here and there, or she thinks the game's up continually throughout this book. It's intonation and it's the depth. She has and we've had a brief chat on Instagram. I did invite her on, but a bit sort of short notice and everything. But she has this. She was very naturally very witchy because.
Well, I was about to say, you're not the only person who thinks this. While you were bouncing around the room, Tigger-like, telling me about this yesterday, you sent me a little clip of the author, Rebecca Kuang, and I've probably pronounced that wrong, and that's possibly illustrating the whole point of the book, the other point of the book, the misappropriation elements of it, which, as I say, I'm not going near with a barge pole. But she said this of your new internet friend, Helen Laser, as the narrator of the book, and why she chose her.
Okay, when I met the narrator of Yellowface, nicest person in the world, I told her I knew immediately she had the perfect voice for this book, but I didn't tell her it's because she sounds like a total witch.
There you go. You see, justified. You can't get bigger justification than the author, can you? Really? But it was so good. And Helen Laser, and thanks Helen for doing this. By the way, she came back on our post on Instagram and referenced the witchy reference there herself. But through her tone of, I'm doing something wrong here, but I deserve the success, and at the same time knowing she's wrong, and she almost comes across as apologetic at times in her tone, despite what she's saying is wrong and evil and all the rest of it. She empathizes with some of the victims that she's doing this to, but still does it anyway. So, for example, Patricia, Athena's mother, who was obviously distraught at her daughter's death, she still lies to her, but she feels really bad, but she still does it anyway, and she keeps going back and doing it.
The interesting thing is that I think that she's almost the evil of it is that Helen makes June sound likable.
Yeah.
And sometimes you're nodding along going, this is fine. Oh my God, actually what she just said was this. So in fact, she casts throws out the chum, and then sometimes you end up, falling for it and drinking it all in, but then you catch yourself just in time. So as you were doing this, I, at the time, had heard another version of the book and not the version that you're talking about. So I was slightly confused. Now, if we go back to... I'm going to play you clips back to back of the version we're talking about and the BBC's abridged version, which are both done by different narrators. Here's the clip you heard at the beginning first.
What is it like to be so impossibly perfect? To have every good thing in the world? And maybe it's the cocktails or my overactive writer's imagination, but I feel this hot coiling in my stomach, a bizarre urge to stick my fingers in her berry red painted mouth and rip her face apart, to neatly peel her skin off her body like an orange and zip it up over myself.
So that's Helen's reading of it. This one is Ashley Haddad, I believe that's pronounced, who recorded the abridged version for the BBC.
What is it like to be so impossibly perfect? To have every good thing in the world? And maybe it's the cocktails or my overactive writer's imagination, but I feel this hot coiling in my stomach. A bizarre urge to stick my fingers in her berry red painted mouth and rip her face apart. To neatly peel her skin off her body like an orange and zip it up over myself.
Steve, compare and contrast.
And that's it right there. And you notice the pace between the two narrators there. With Helen Laser, she goes a level deeper because there's a faster pace in her delivery of the dialogue of the story, the words on the page, and there's also that sense of panic as well. So you really feel the sort of naughty guilt of the character June Hayward that much more. And, Ashley Haddad I found very accomplished, but it felt a little bit like she... it didn't have that. It just didn't have that. It was kind of reading the story. Yeah, that's what I found really. It's basically that she became three-dimensional with Helen Laser's delivery. And you really sensed that what she was doing, you really felt the sense of the story of the character, what the character was doing and how wrong it was, how they felt about it that much more than you did with the book at bedtime version. Okay,
so I think, correct me if I'm wrong, that we both read these books or listened to these audiobooks in a different order. So I started with the BBC version, which I actually listened to when it came out in about February or March of this year. And then I went on to the proper official HarperCollins version. Did you do it that way around, Steve?
I was official first.
Okay, all right. So in what you're saying is, I think there are two things in...
Does that skew us though? Does that mean does that bias our opinion in who we listen to first?
I think it's like hi-fi equipment and cheese, Steve. So I went to a posh cheese shop about 10 years ago, and I was having some people around for dinner who I wanted to impress. It didn't work, but I went in and they had this walk-in cheese closet. I'm sure you know where it is. It's just opposite the same building where you and I worked in Marylebone High Street. Do you know the one I mean?
Yeah, I know the one you mean.
They have a walk-in cheese fridge, and a cheese expert will take you into the magical room of cheese and teach you how to put a cheese board together. And the important thing with the cheese board, apparently, is that you put the mildest cheese on the left, and then they gradually get stronger, and the Stilton is on the right. So the really ripe thing. So in that way, you get to the softer cheeses, the lighter cheeses, the more gentle cheeses don't get lost because you've got the taste of the stronger cheese in your mouth. So you start at the left and go to the right. I think they say with hi-fi equipment, you don't necessarily notice the difference after a while when you've bought a new stereo. But if you go back to an older, less cutting-edge stereo, less expensive stereo piece of equipment, you'll notice the downturn in quality, the step down in terms of the experience. Am I making sense, or am I just talking codswallop?
No, you're absolutely right. It's like when you buy a new pair. Whenever I buy a new pair of, it sounds so old here. You said hi-fi. I've said like ear pips. I'm going to say ear pips or headphones. But you buy sort of the next grade up or more bass or whatever, and you never go back. You think, oh my god, what was I listening to? It was so tinny, but you were used to it and didn't know any better. Yeah, and that's probably what it is.
So someone I know has a kind of a. Have I mentioned the Triggers broom of earpods before?
No, but yeah, Trigger, go for it. Yeah, go on.
Well, she's still on the same pair of earbuds or whatever they're called, iBuds. But she lost the left one a little while ago, so I had to buy a new one, and then lost the right one. You know, the ones that fall out of your ear. And it's kind of the Triggers broom effect. If you know, you know, as you would. That's me making an obscure 1980s UK comedy reference. Normally we've reversed roles.
You know what? But yeah, if Helen Laser's listening to this, she'll love all this stuff. She'll get it. Yeah.
Helen, we'd love to have you on. We have a book that we want you to review. Please do get in touch with Steve. He's not stalking you, I promise.
I've asked politely. I'll leave it there. I won't. I don't want to come across as needy like I do in every other episode. Yeah.
So what I'm saying is that for me, it was almost a perfect way around to do it. I read the slower paced, abridged version, and then I got the full bells and whistles, top drawer, 8 hours and 30 minutes version. And yeah, the difference in the energy of the narrators is clear. The depth of understanding of the text, I think Helen wins. And yeah, there were also loads of bits in the book. You probably felt there were bits missing when you listened to the abridged version, but actually the book opened up for me a little bit when there were bits in the original, the BBC version that I listened to first, where they admitted they shrunk the book from 8 hours and whatever it is to 10, 14-minute episodes, which is just over 2 hours. So inevitably bits are going to go missing. But actually, there were bits I don't understand that character's motivation. What's all that about? What does it mean when she says that her story had been stolen and she was just getting revenge? If I'm trying to be positive, there is some fat that's cut off in the abridged version. But I don't know. I guess you have to ask, what purpose do they both serve? And I was thinking about this, Steve. I don't know if you could, but I think you're an outlier of the people I met, because you tend to listen to audiobooks on a speaker or in the car, don't you?
Yep. Yeah.
And most of the people I talk to, and I could be wrong, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, listen on headphones. I guess the car is somewhere halfway between the two. Radio, which is the original way people listen to the BBC one, and when Book at Bedtime was first instigated, probably 60 years ago or something like that. But the tradition of the reading of abridged versions of books on the BBC, the radio was a little box in the corner, and you were probably turning your mangle at the time, or doing something, or hoovering, and would just dip in and out and catch bits of it. So I think there's an argument that, well, Book at Bedtime's a clue, isn't it? So perhaps a more toned down version is appropriate. But also it's the difference between, if you spend £8 on the HarperCollins version, you're invested in it and you want to sort of dive into it and swim in it. But the Book at Bedtime version, I'm not sure And this is the interesting thing. So the reason that the publishers don't mind the fact that their books have aired for free is because the typical listener's experience is that they know they're not going to have heard everything, but it might entice them to buy a traditional tree pulp-based version of the book. So a paper version or a Kindle version of the book. We come from an audiobook point of view, and I don't think that listening to the Radio 4 version would make me want to buy the audiobook. But I think that's new, isn't it? That's not something that's been going on for 60 years.
I think that's the argument, isn't it? Is that it's by its definition book at bedtime, and so it's the time of night, the time when Radio 4 gets a little bit sort of sedate until it eventually winds down to the shipping forecast and then close down or hand over to the BBC World Service. And so I wonder whether, in Ashley Haddad's defence, whether actually she was actually directed to play it that way. Whether she was actually directed to sort of make it more a bit more of a sedentary tone, and also it's 15 minutes long. That there is an argument here to say, hang on a second, you want people to tune in the next night to the next episode of Book at Bedtime to see what happens next. You want a bit of a cliffhanger, so you do want the Helen Laser version for 15 minutes, because it will make you want to listen to the next episode, or more people to listen to the next episode. And also it's a nice free advert for Audible every 15 minutes on Radio 4.
Look, I think ultimately it's a matter of personal taste, isn't it? But I think, and again, it's not a competition, but I think I think you and I would both agree that our tastes coincide, and the BBC Book at Bedtime version, it's great. It felt great earlier in the year to know that I was reading a novel from a hip young writer, that was topping the Sunday Times bestseller list. I felt very good about myself doing that. But then when I
you felt young again, right? You felt like you were only 45. Yeah, I know.
I felt I was cutting edge and very literary and that. And then I listened to the HarperCollins Helen Laser. I hope her surname is pronounced Laser. I can't remember.
It is, yes.
Okay, thank goodness for that. We should do her a jingle. Helen Laser. Pew, pew. What do you think? Do you think she'll like that?
What, the top 10 at 10 with Helen Laser?
Pew, pew.
Oh, the greatest hits, and then the laser bolts come in. Yeah, I see.
To be honest, I think she already has a stronger sonic brand than either you and I could help.
Yeah, she kind of does. Yeah.
Yeah. But that's not the point. So the point is, please, if you're new to audiobooks and you're not sure you got the concentration, go to the BBC Sounds app, which is now apparently available worldwide, and there's a whole host of interesting radio stuff on there. Download it and have a listen to the Book at Bedtime version of Yellowface. If, on the other hand, you are an audiobook old hand like me and Steve, and you want to immerse yourself in one of the audiobooks of the year, Steve?
Yes, completely. It was literally one of the audiobooks. It was Amazon Best Book of the Year, finalist at the Audio Awards as well.
Oh, was it? Okay. But I feel, again, it's one of those books that you're quite happy to leave out on a coffee table. If you could do, that's another thing you can't do with audiobooks. I'd quite like it to be known by people who visit me in my humble abode that I'm the type of person who reads, American young, literarily aligned novels. So it's the one that you'd put in your Daunt books bag, isn't it? It's that level.
It certainly is. It looks really good on CarPlay as well, with a nice yellow display. So that's kind of the equivalent, really. But you have to have someone in your car to appreciate your taste and be listening to the audiobook as well and force it on them.
Good.
Not quite the same.
Big thumbs up, Steve.
Massive thumbs up. Shall we do the stats on the book?
I like it when you do this, but it's proper broadcasting this.
You have been listening to the review of Yellowface by Rebecca F. Kuang from HarperCollins, the proper audio version. The official proper version. 8 hours, 38 minutes, narrated by Helen Laser. The Book at Bedtime version is available on BBC Sounds right now. The abridged version, that's 10 14-minute episodes narrated by Ashley Haddad. And that is this week's episode But next week, Matt, is special.
I'm going on holiday.
Yes, yeah, right. We're blowing the illusion that we're back with a fantastic interview with one of our literary leading lights. You're buggering off on holiday.
What, you mean Ben? I know I shouldn't do that, but next week we have an interview recorded with author Ben McIntyre, the man behind Operation Mincemeat, Colditz, which was our favourite book of 2022, I think, and SAS Rogue Heroes, which is another great thing. So those are the televised and film versions of his cinematic history books. I think that's the way to put it. They're true stories, but they're just told in a cinematic way. Another #1 Sunday Times bestseller. I'm sure he's about to... Well, he's going to tangle with Richard Osman, I think, because both of them are have released a book on the 12th of September. So we'll see who's #1 next week. But yes, rather wonderfully, he gave us of his time, and we have an interview with him coming up next week.
Looking forward to that. Of course, as we record, The Siege has just come out today. His account of the Iranian embassy siege back in 1981. So that's going to be on our list, I'm sure, before too long to review. So that's Ben McIntyre next week. But you've been listening to the Yellowface episode, and thank you, Rebecca F. Kuang, and thank you, Helen Laser. Thank you, Ashley Haddad, for bringing such a fantastic story to life. And we will see you in a couple of weeks' time. Ta-ra.
Ta-ta!
Audiobook Club with Steve Phillips and Matthew Layton.
AI agents are everywhere, automating tasks and making decisions at machine speed. But agents make mistakes. Just one rogue agent can do big damage before you even notice. Rubrik Agent Cloud is the only platform that helps you monitor agents, set guardrails, and rewind mistakes, so you can unleash agents, not risk. Accelerate your AI transformation at Rubrik.com. That's RUBRIK.com.